What's up, guys? I wanted to do a review on my Polar Vantage M2 watch. Not super big on technology for your health and wellness, but I think they can be very good for certain people. And I know there's a lot of things out there, your Whoop Band, Aura Ring, got the Polar, Garmin, all kinds of wearable technologies. A lot of people will use their Apple iWatch. I'm not going to go too much into basically the mechanism of how they get some of these data points. One, that's just a little above my pay grade, and two, most of you guys probably don't care. But I will say, out of all the things I've tried, which are including some of the other options like the Apple Watch and the Aura Ring and things like that, this has been my favorite so far, mainly because it helps me with the training load. So I just wanted to take you through the interface of the watch if you guys are curious about it. Um, Obviously, it gives you the date, and then it gives you your activity level, which you can set for the day. So that's an easy way to get your steps and certain cardio load in. It'll tell you if your overall load has you at basically detraining, maintenance, a productive, or overreaching phase. Obviously, this is mostly towards the cardio load, but if you're just lifting, the amount of time that you're doing your volume sets and reps, it does a pretty good job of tracking this as well, especially if you enter in your total tonnage on the notes section, which I'll kind of link some pictures of what the app interface looks like later. But this is one of my favorite parts for managing stress and picking good prescribed training loads. Obviously, it'll tell you your current heart rate. It'll tell you kind of when your last training session was. And then the big one is the sleep. So on this one, I said I got an okay night's sleep last night, and it'll tell you both your HRV, your autonomic nervous system, versus your actual sleep details. So this is good for ANSs, is for making training decisions, basically whether you're going to do a higher percentage or not for the day, or more volume, etc. And then the sleep one, I don't think too many people need to get wrapped into it, but it does help you with your sleep hygiene, and it's color coded, so I like it a lot. And it'll just kind of tell you, basically how much sleep you're averaging. And if you go back and look at the trends, I think that can be very important for putting two and two together when it comes to, why is my training not going so well? Why am I maybe having some, kind of more prone to anxiety or depression or things like that emotionally. And then you also too can self-report and rate it. So I just think it's a very clean interface. And the main thing is, unlike the Aura Ring that I had used before, is it doesn't account for a lot of your training load. There's a little bit of that with the Aura Ring, but with this, it just does a lot better job incorporating your training load. It'll even make recommendations on to what type of training you should do, whether you should do more strength, cardio, or supportive, like recovery type sessions, and it'll walk you through them if you don't really have your own training plan. Obviously, it has little widgets like the weather, and it'll also break down how much of your week of training you've accumulated so far. So for me, I always just try to get my 5 hours in a week. Some weeks will be a little higher, 6, 7, 8. Other weeks will be a little lower, 2 or 3 total training hours. Just depends on what I have time to allot to it. And of course, you can sync it up to your, Bluetooth, iPhone, Android for music and headphones and whatnot. But the training function is really cool. You can pick, so you can categorize your sessions. Anytime I take a walk, I log that. Obviously have like circuit training, and then strength training, and then especially if you're into the triathlete stuff, it's waterproof. Take it cycling. It has a very good system that maps with GPS your running routes and things like that. It's just I would say an athlete's watch through and through, if they're looking to monitor or manage their training load. Some other cool little features about it is you can do some breath work, and it'll set the time and intervals that you can set. And so if you want to do 15-minute meditation session, it'll have a little vibration for the inhales and exhales, and it just makes it a little bit more doable, especially if you have something physically telling you when to breathe in and out. You certainly don't need it, but a lot of people have a struggle with meditation and relaxing and being able to just be in the moment. And I think it's a cool feature that they've added into it. Same thing for fueling and timers. You can even set it almost like an alarm when you wake up in the morning. So it's just a physical alarm. It has done a nice job of waking me up. It just kind of taps your wrist, and it's a little gentler than a loud alarm clock. I think it's pretty beneficial. You can even do a line fitness test. I haven't really used this function too much, but if I was doing more cardiovascular intensive things like 3-mile runs or 5-mile runs, where I was running for a greater distance and time where energy would be a concern, I would definitely use these to decide which day I would do that heavier cardio load on. But all in all, guys, I just wanted to do a little video on that. I'll kind of link it in with some of the pictures of the app as well and do a little voiceover on that. But I would say out of all the things that I've tried, this is by far the most beneficial for individual athletes' use. Just day to day, I prefer it over an Apple Watch. And then if you're serious about your health and wellness, this is a very easy tool to track things like steps, calories for the day, and then also to your training split throughout the week. Check it out. This first screen you're going to see here is your daily training load. Kind of cut a little bit of it off, but you get your steps, your distance traveled, your calories, and your max and minimum heart rate. It also puts it into a nice graph form. I like to look at the graph each morning of the day before training. I'll kind of check it a little bit before I go to bed too, to see how much I got for the day and kind of have a plan for my training. But for the most part, I'm going to use the day before's training to kind of decide whether, whatever I have programmed is right for me, or if I'm going to call an audible for the day and take a rest day, or do something different, or just whatever. So I think this screen is really beneficial because it visually puts the amount of movement and the amount of effort to each type of movement into a nice little condensed graph, and it helps you understand what you're feeling a little bit more. Sometimes depending on how long you've been training, you may feel you're not doing enough, or you may feel like you're doing too much for some of the more advanced training populations. At a more macro view instead of that micro view, you have basically your cardio load for the week. It'll give you a trend line with it, which helps you make sure you're maintaining a productive amount of training, or even overreaching for periods of time. But it just makes sure that you're not doing too little, and allows you to kind of take a bigger picture snapshot of how your week went. I don't think this one is as important for people unless you're getting ready for a competition or something where you need to truly deload. But it does help to see week to week whether or not you're making the right training undulations. And then lastly, probably almost more important than some of the training load for a lot of people, is just the sleep measurements. It's going to break it down into your light sleep, your deep sleep, your rapid eye movement, and then interruptions. I do have an 8-month-old, so I get a lot of interruptions, and sometimes I get to bed a little later than I would like. But deep's going to help you recover your body, essentially, where all the tendon and tissue repair goes on, and rapid eye movement is where your brain and all your neurotransmitters and stuff like that are going to be repair. I like to see 3 hours between each deep and REM at minimum. There's going to be times where you get less than that, but for me, I will also make training modifications based off of my load for the day. And then lastly, one of my favorite apps to use in conjunction with the Polar app is Chronometer. You can see it's really simple. You just punch your food in. It has a barcode scanner. I literally can go out to eat and punch stuff in. It's super simple. It takes 5 seconds, and I can just see roughly how many calories I'm getting for the day, and then what that breakdown of protein, carbs, and fats are. And I just undulate my calories between about 2,400 and 3,800 depending on my activity level. I would say my resting metabolic rate for my height and body weight is somewhere around the 800 mark. So sometimes I'll eat a little under and carb cycle, just how I maintain my body weight, so I'm not getting the proverbial dad bod. But I think we like to bash technology a lot because people have been doing this intuitively for a really long time, and I agree that as your training age increases, you really don't need to rely on this type of stuff. But for people who have just started training or have a hard time with compliance and adherence, I think these technologies do a really good job of basically allowing you to babysit yourself and hold yourself accountable for all of the little details that go into health and wellness, and to help you be more realistic with your goals and expectations. Hope you guys enjoyed.